Hi, Mr. Unkert here, and in this video we're going to look at some CSS grid. And right now I have brackets, the brackets text editor open. It's another cool one that you can use. So let's look at brackets. Okay, and let's create a div with a class of grid3. So I'm going to type period grid-3 and hit tab, and emit is going to give me a grid3. Then I'm going to type period grid 3a, okay, and then do that times 3 and hit tab. That's going to give me 3 of them, and I'm going to space these out a little bit, but I'm going to change them to B and to C, and in each one I'm going to go a paragraph with lorem 50, so 50 words in each. So paragraph lorem 50, okay, and then paragraph and lorem 50. Okay, and we're gonna hit Control S to save and refresh. Okay, and so we've got 3 different paragraphs there. Now we want to set them up in a grid format so I can have 3 columns. So I'm going to style the grid3 class. Okay, so there's a problem here. I gotta close this one out. Okay. All right, and I'm going to do a display of grid. Okay, and then I'm going to do. It's tabbing over a little odd here. Then I'm going to do a grid template columns, and I'm going to do auto, then A, then auto, then B, then auto, then C, then auto, then D, and I'm doing the letters in the brackets there, the square brackets, then auto, then E, auto, then F, and then auto, and just a semicolon. Okay, and then move that back here. Okay, I'm going to style the grid 3a div class. So I'm going to do grid column start, and I'm going to start it at A, and then do grid column end, and end at B. And I'm going to copy this a few times. Okay, and then I'm going to change this to C, this to B, and we'll start at C and go to D. And it should not be a semicolon there, it should be a colon. This should be a colon, and this should be a colon. And here we're going to go from E to F. Hit Control S to save and see what we got. All right, so we've got 3 columns, but let's create a grid gap between these of 50 pixels. Control save. Okay, so now we've got a grid gap of 50 pixels. Let's do 30%. And then 30% on this side. Control S. Okay, so that moves them more in the center. And then in between each of these, let's do 5%. Control S. Okay, and that spaces them out a little bit more. And then maybe we do, although I'm not sure this will change because it might just auto. Probably not going to change it much. No, that didn't change it. Instead, rather, I just want one of these because this is making an automatic one, so it's I've given the percents. So let's bring this down to 15% and this here to 15%. Control S to save. And you'll see it moves it over a little bit, but maybe I want to move it a little bit over one side. So hit Control S to save. And I move it over toward the center. That's looking a little bit better. Maybe I only want, maybe I want to take out this grid gap here and hit Control S. And then see, you get a little bit better, but I want to move it over more. So I'll do 40% now. So it moves them over a little bit more. I want a little bit less on this side. Maybe I only do 5%. So it moves it out more towards the center. Move that in a little bit. Maybe I just do 1% here, you know, and maybe I do 45% here. And yeah, and then we got some nice columns right in the center. And you can play with it and do it however you like. You can change it to 2 columns. So let's actually do that. Let's change it to 2 columns. So I'm just going to create some different classes now. And I'm going to delete one of those. And I'm going to call this 2B. And this is 2A. And this is 2. So now we've totally renamed the classes. So when I refresh, it's going to not be in that grid column format. But let's create them. So we're going to do grid 2. And we're going to do display of grid, and then grid template columns, and we're going to do, let's do 30%, and then we'll do square brackets A, and then we'll do an automatic, we'll let them size it, and then B, and then we'll do 5% in between, and then we'll do C, do another auto, and then D, and maybe 5% this way. Let's see what we got. Okay, then we got to create our grid 2A and grid 2B. Sorry, so let's not see what we got just yet. So we're going to do a grid column start of A, a grid column end of B, and grid 2B. We're going to do a grid column, whoops, start of C, and the grid column end of D. Okay. And let's save it. And we've got 2 nice grids there. We might want to move them over. So we might want to move them over. Let me show you how to do that. So let's just increase this to 40. Increase this down to 1% there. And maybe even narrow that to 3%. And we'll move them over a little bit. Okay, so those move over nicely into the center there. And maybe even drop this down to 2, and this down to say 38 or something like that. Not 28, 38, sorry, 38. Okay, so we play with it a little bit, move it over a little bit, get them nice like that. So you can play around with the CSS grid and make a lot of different things that you want with it, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. This is just an introduction. You also, just to get rid of the grid when you go to a mobile, because when it gets small, it looks kind of weird. So you want to do that in a media query. So we'll just do .grid2, and we'll just do a display of block, and that should take care of it. That's down in the small screen, so let's refresh, and we're back to normal. Okay, so we go to a bigger screen, it's like that. Smaller screen, it's like that, because we've done the media query. If you have any questions, leave comments in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and have a great day.